So, I want you to imagine something for a second.
Okay.
You are sitting at your desk on, just a perfectly typical Tuesday afternoon. You've got this dull, just nagging headache building right behind your eyes.
Oh, we've all been there.
Right. You're fatigued, your eyes are irritated and dry, and you keep sneezing. Like every 10 minutes, you're reaching for another tissue.
Sounds miserable.
Yeah, and what goes through your mind? You probably blame yourself, is it right? You think, I'm staring at this screen way too long, or maybe it's just my seasonal allergies acting up, or you just chalk it up to general work stress.
Sure, that's the natural conclusion.
But what if the culprit isn't you at all? What if the actual culprit is the building itself?
Yeah, that is a completely paradigm-shifting concept for most people.
Totally.
Because, we spend massive amounts of time and honestly, money optimizing our diets, our sleep routines, our, ergonomic office chairs. Yet we completely ignore this invisible envelope of air that we're trapped inside for, 8 to 10 hours a day.
And that invisible envelope is the core theme of our deep dive today. We are exploring a phenomenon known as sick building syndrome.
Right.
And we're uncovering the vital role of commercial air duct cleaning in curing it. This is especially critical when you factor in the incredibly unique and often challenging climate of Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, Atlanta's a whole different beast.
It really is.
Yeah.
Now, before we get into the heavy science here, I want to quickly mention that this deep dive is brought to you by the local experts at Four Seasons Air Care LLC. You can reach them at 404-891-0225.
Having a regional partner who actually understands the specific environmental loads of the Southeast is absolutely essential when you're dealing with indoor air quality.
Unquestionably. And, Four Seasons Air Care offers really comprehensive air duct cleaning GA, crawl space encapsulation, ductwork installation, and repair.
Which is huge.
Yeah, plus dryer vent cleaning, disinfection services, HVAC system cleaning, and water damage restoration. We'll dive deeper into their specific methods later, but if you're already snoozing at your desk and want to jump straight to a solution, again, that's Four Seasons Air Care at 404-891-0225.
It's good to have that resource right up front.
Definitely, because our mission today is to take you on a journey from, the microscopic all the way to the macroeconomic.
We're covering it all.
We are. We're going to explore the actual science behind sick building syndrome, uncover what is physically hiding in the ductwork right above your head, and reveal the undeniable business ROI of professional commercial air duct cleaning.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's unpack this. What exactly makes a building sick?
Well, to understand the mechanic of this, we really have to look at the Environmental Protection Agency's definition, the EPA's definition of sick building syndrome, or SBS.
Okay.
It is a formally recognized condition. It occurs when building occupants experience these acute health and comfort effects that seem directly linked to the time they spend in a specific building.
So we are talking about the exact symptoms from that Tuesday afternoon scenario, like the headaches, the profound fatigue, severe allergy flare-ups.
Yeah, coughing, irritation of the eyes, nose, throat, all of it.
Man.
But here is the defining characteristic.
Nah.
No specific illness or viral cause can be identified. You don't have the flu. You don't have strep throat. You just simply feel terrible when you are inside the building envelope.
And then you step outside.
Exactly. You miraculously feel better a few hours after you leave the premises. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the real tragedy is that employees often suffer these symptoms for months, sometimes years, without realizing that the building's poor indoor air quality and its neglected HVAC systems are the actual root cause.
Wow.
Yeah, they burn through their sick days, they buy all these over-the-counter allergy meds, entirely unaware that the environment itself is compromised.
See, I have to play devil's advocate here, though. I want to push back on this just a bit because it's easy to sound kind of alarmist.
Fair enough.
We are talking about standard office air here. This isn't a coal mine. It's not a chemical refinery.
Right.
I struggle to believe that standard paper fiber, typical office dust, and maybe a few dead skin cells are enough to cause widespread cognitive fog and severe respiratory distress. Aren't we slightly overstating the threat level?
I completely get the skepticism. I really do. But we actually aren't overstating it at all. To understand why modern office air can be so toxic, we have to look back at the history of building science.
Okay, history lesson.
Just a quick one. So in the wake of the 1970s energy crisis, architectural standards shifted dramatically. To conserve heating and cooling energy, we basically stopped building structures that breathed.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, we sealed them up incredibly tight with fixed windows, heavy insulation, vapor barriers, you name it.
So we essentially built these giant airtight thermoses for human beings,
Yes.
but we severely limited the amount of fresh outdoor air coming in.
That is a perfect way to look at it. Because the building is so tightly sealed, everything generated inside stays inside. And what's inside isn't just paper dust.
What else is in there?
We are talking about volatile organic compounds, VOCs. They are continuously off-gassing from synthetic carpets, engineered wood desks, copier toner, industrial cleaning supplies.
Just everyday office stuff.
Exactly.
Huh.
And then you also have the biological factors. If it's a mixed-use commercial space, you might find Ted Bander. But the real heavy hitters, the ones that cause the most damage, are mold spores and colonies of bacteria.
Okay, but how do those biological factors actually translate into physical symptoms? Like, how does a mold spore sitting above the ceiling tiles give me a headache at my desk?
It basically comes down to your body's immune response.
Yeah.
Mold spores and certain bacteria release these microscopic toxins.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and when those enter your respiratory system, your body immediately recognizes them as foreign invaders and mounts an inflammatory immune response.
So it's fighting a war.
A low-grade environmental war, yes. And that systemic inflammation is what causes the profound fatigue and the brain fog. Your body is exhausting its own energy reserves fighting this off.
That makes so much sense.
Right, and the ductwork above you. That provides a perfectly dark, temperature-controlled highway for these contaminants to travel from one end of the office to the other, circulating them over and over again.
Wow. So we have these sealed thermoses acting as a highway for off-gassing chemicals and microscopic toxins. But, dust and synthetic chemicals alone don't necessarily explain a massive biological accumulation of mold and bacteria.
Right, they need fuel.
Something has to act as a catalyst for life.
Yeah.
Which makes me think about environmental triggers, specifically geography. Let's zero in on Atlanta, Georgia. Why is that specific metro area a perfect storm for sick building syndrome?
It fundamentally comes down to the physics of the climate. Atlanta's climate is, as you know, famously humid.
Oh, famously.
We are talking about relative humidity levels, frequently exceeding 70% during those long summer months. Now, when that incredibly humid, heavy air is drawn into a commercial HVAC system and interacts with the chilled components, condensation is inevitable. Water is stripped from the air.
Right. It's just like a cold glass of iced tea sweating on a porch in July. The water has to go somewhere.
Exactly. And unfortunately, a lot of that moisture gets trapped. It accumulates inside the plenums, which are the large air distribution boxes connected directly to the HVAC unit, and it pools around the evaporator coils.
Not good.
Not at all. This creates an absolutely ideal breeding ground for biological growth. The moisture activates the organic matter found in typical dust, creating this sort of biofilm.
A biofilm. That sounds thoroughly unpleasant.
Oh, it is. It really is.
Yeah.
A biofilm is essentially a slimy, highly resilient matrix of bacteria and mold that just clings to the metal surfaces.
Yeah.
So the moisture activates it, the accumulated dust feeds it, and then the high-powered HVAC blower fan distributes all the resulting spores across the entire office floor plan.
And then, on top of that internal moisture problem, you have to factor in the external environment. Like, specifically the infamous Georgia pollen season.
Which is a massive, massive variable. According to the UGA extension, the Georgia pollen season typically peaks in early to mid-April.
Oh, the pollinating.
Yes, it coats the entire state in a thick layer of yellow dust.
I can visualize it now. If a commercial building's filtration isn't perfectly sealed, or if the return ducts are pulling air from unconditioned spaces like a warehouse or a poorly sealed drop ceiling.
Which happens a lot.
Yeah, that heavy, dense pollen gets sucked right into the respiratory system of the building, and it mixes with that damp, moldy biofilm you just described.
Exactly.
That creates a highly concentrated, allergen-heavy cocktail being pumped directly onto employees' desks.
And what's really fascinating here is how quickly that cocktail can degrade an indoor environment. Once that biological matter takes hold in the dark, damp corners of the ductwork, standard filtration just cannot stop the gaseous byproducts and microscopic spores from permeating the workspace.
Okay, before we talk about how to actually cure this sick building scenario, I want to bring our sponsor back in, because they are the frontline defense against this exact toxic cocktail.
Absolutely.
This deep dive is sponsored by Four Seasons Air Care LLC, and you can reach them directly at 404-891-0225. I really want to highlight their track record here because in the commercial contracting space, trust and reputation are everything. You don't just let anyone start dismantling your building's infrastructure.
No, you really can't.
Four Seasons Air Care boasts a 4.9-star rating from over 798 reviews. They are Google verified, and they are recognized as a #1 trusted contractor on both Yelp and Facebook.
Those kinds of sustained metrics over hundreds of jobs do not happen by accident in the service industry. I mean, it requires intense consistency.
They really do. When you look at their 5-star reviews, you see these incredibly consistent themes of reliability and thoroughness. You have clients like Jamie Bernstein leaving reviews praising their next-day service, specifically noting how the team took their time and used incredible care to clean every single component.
That attention to detail is critical.
It is. Or Nick Pattison, who highlighted their rapid response time in getting a complex job scheduled flawlessly. And remember, they offer comprehensive air duct cleaning GA, crawl space encapsulation, ductwork installation and repair, dryer vent cleaning, disinfection services, HVAC system cleaning, and water damage restoration.
That's a serious lineup.
It really is. But today, of course, we are hyper-focused on their commercial air duct cleaning services in Atlanta, Georgia.
Having a contractor that handles the full spectrum, from water damage to duct repair, is crucial because, as we've established, indoor air quality is an integrated system problem.
Which leads perfectly into my next thought. Because if a building manager realizes their air is bad, there is always this temptation to take the cheap route. Like, can't the overnight janitorial staff just take a damp rag, wipe down the metal vent covers, and maybe set up a few heavy-duty air purifiers in the lobby?
I am so glad you brought that up, because we need to firmly debunk the blow-and-go or surface-level cleaning myth right now.
Please do.
Wiping the vent cover to fix sick building syndrome is like polishing the exhaust pipe of a car to fix a blown engine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you are meticulously cleaning the exit point while the machinery generating the problem is left completely untouched. It does absolutely nothing to address the core contamination.
So it just makes the office look pretty from the desk chair while the actual hazard remains completely hidden up in the ceiling.
Exactly. The EPA and the National Air Duct Cleaners Association, known as NADCA, explicitly warn against this kind of superficial maintenance.
They do.
Oh, yeah. Their guidelines are exceptionally clear. If one contaminated component of the HVAC system is left dirty, the entire system simply recontaminates itself the second the blower fan kicks back on. If you clean the supply ducts but ignore the return ducts, the return just feeds the contaminated air right back into the pristine supply lines.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
So how do you actually fix the engine? What are the mechanics of a legitimate professional intervention?
Real commercial air duct cleaning, the kind that definitively improves indoor air quality and drastically reduces airborne pollutants, it requires a meticulous, highly technical process called source removal.
Source removal. I kind of love that terminology. Walk us through the step-by-step of what Four Seasons Air Care actually does when they deploy to a commercial facility.
So it requires serious, heavy-duty technology. First, the technicians utilize industrial-grade negative air machines.
Okay.
Think of these as massive, high-volume vacuums that are hooked up directly to the main trunk lines of the ductwork. They seal the system and place the entire HVAC network under continuous negative pressure.
Ah, I see where you're going. By creating that massive controlled vacuum tunnel, when they start knocking the dust loose, the airflow only moves in one direction. It physically cannot blow out of the vents and cover everyone's keyboards in toxic dust.
That is the exact mechanism. It prevents any cross-contamination of the active office space. While the system is under that intense suction, the technicians insert high-velocity mechanical agitation tools.
Like what?
We're talking about pneumatic air whips, which are basically high-powered, flexible tentacles driven by compressed air that violently thrash against the interior of the sheet metal and specialized rotary brushes. These tools physically dislodge the years of baked-on biofilm, petrified construction dust, and hardened organic matter.
And because of the negative pressure, all of that dislodged nightmare fuel just gets pulled instantly out of the building.
It gets pulled straight into the negative air machine, which is equipped with specialized HEPA filtration units.
Right. And for you listening, capturing particles with a HEPA filter isn't just a fancy metric to put on a brochure. These filters capture 99.97% of particles down to an incredibly small 0.3 microns.
Which is tiny.
So tiny. To put that in human terms, particles that small actually bypass your body's natural defense mechanisms like the mucous membranes in your nose and throat and can enter directly into your lower lungs or even cross over into your bloodstream. So capturing them at the machine level is a massive health victory.
Building on that, the source removal process doesn't stop at the ductwork. The metal tubes are just the delivery mechanism. You have to clean the literal mechanical lungs of the system.
Okay.
Four Seasons Air Care offers comprehensive cleaning that includes decontaminating the evaporator coils, the drain pans, the mixing boxes, which regulate airflow and temperature, and the primary blower assemblies.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The evaporator coil is where the actual heat exchange and condensation happen, right?
Yeah.
Where that heavy Atlanta humidity slams into the freezing cold metal.
Yes, and if you have a dirty coil, you basically have a wet, dark sponge of dust and biofilm obstructing the airflow.
Gross.
You have to chemically clean and decontaminate those coils to eradicate the mold growth.
Yeah.
You have to clear the drain pans so they don't back up and create stagnant pools of standing water inside the unit.
Makes sense.
And you must clean the blower fan blades. If the fan blades are caped in a quarter-inch of dense, hardened dust, their aerodynamic profile is ruined. They can't slice through the air efficiently.
Which brings us to a massive pivot point in this conversation. Because we've established the health threat, we've explored the highly technical mechanical solution.
Right.
But if I am a business owner, a property manager, or, a CFO listening to this, I have a budget. I have strict operating margins. Why should I authorize this expense beyond just a vague sense of hygiene? So what does this all mean for the bottom line?
This raises such an important question about how we view facility maintenance. The return on investment here is dual-layered. First, let's look at the human capital.
Okay.
The direct benefit for businesses is significantly healthier employees. When you eradicate the sources of sick building syndrome, the data shows an immediate improvement in workplace productivity and cognitive focus.
Because your accountant team isn't fighting through an inflammatory brain fog headache at 2:00 p.m. every day.
Precisely. When the indoor air quality is restored, businesses see a drastic reduction in sick days and absenteeism. Employees aren't calling out on a Tuesday because of severe sinus infections triggered by the office air.
That's a huge hidden cost.
It is. You are also creating better overall workplace comfort, which plays a surprisingly large role in employee retention. Simply put, human beings perform better and stay longer when they can breathe clean air.
That makes total intuitive sense. Protecting your human capital is protecting your biggest asset. But there is a second part to this ROI, right? The mechanical side.
The mechanical side is where the hard, measurable financial savings occur. It's not just the humans who perform better when they can breathe. It's the expensive commercial machinery.
How so?
The Department of Energy has published fascinating data on this. They state that leaking or dirty duct systems can reduce cooling efficiency by up to 20%.
20%, that is a massive hidden tax on a commercial power bill, especially during a Georgia summer.
It is staggering. Furthermore, they note that between 20% to 41% of the energy consumed by an HVAC system can be completely wasted if the system is restricted by internal debris.
Wait, walk me through the physics of that. How does a layer of dust inside a metal box waste electricity? Is it just the physical weight of the dust slowing the fan down?
It actually comes down to a principle called static pressure. Imagine you have a regular drinking straw, and you blow air through it. It takes almost no effort.
Sure.
Now imagine trying to blow that exact same volume of air through a straw that is half clogged with thick peanut butter. You have to blow much, much harder, exerting significantly more energy to achieve a lesser result.
Oh, that is a brilliant analogy. The blower fan is your lungs, and the ductwork is the straw.
Exactly. When a commercial duct system and its heat exchange coils are choked with a dense biofilm and debris, the blower motor has to work overtime. It draws significantly more electrical amperage just to force the conditioned air through the blockage.
Wow.
By performing a true source removal cleaning, you eradicate the friction. You restore the airflow to its original engineered design specifications.
So the system uses significantly less electricity to cool the exact same amount of square footage.
Yes, it saves major energy costs month over month. But even more importantly, it extends the lifespan of the equipment.
Because it's not working as hard.
Right. A commercial rooftop HVAC unit can cost tens of thousands of dollars. If it runs continuously against high static pressure, the motor will eventually burn out prematurely. Cleaning shifts this from a massive capital expenditure nightmare to a manageable preventative operational cost.
So you are reducing sick days, lowering your monthly utility bill, and delaying the massive capital expense of replacing burnt-out commercial machinery. That is an undeniable, ironclad business case.
It really is.
But it leads to a very practical question for you, the listener, especially if you manage a commercial facility or sign the leases. How often does a commercial building actually need this intensive source removal process to prevent sick building syndrome from taking root?
So the EPA and industry standards treat commercial duct cleaning primarily as an as-needed service. You don't necessarily need the pneumatic whips deployed every single year like clockwork.
Okay, that's a relief.
Yeah. The immediate non-negotiable triggers for service are visible mold growth, a noticeable drop in airflow from the vents, or heavy, visible dust accumulation on the registers.
But waiting until you can physically see the mold creeping out of the ceiling vents feels incredibly reactive. That's like waiting for the engine to smoke before changing the oil.
It is highly reactive and dangerous for the occupants, which is why the expert guidance strongly dictates that a comprehensive, professional general inspection of the ductwork and HVAC components should be performed every 2 to 3 years.
Okay, an inspection every 2 to 3 years. That is highly manageable for any facility budget.
However, that frequency must be accelerated in certain scenarios. High-traffic environments, like retail spaces, busy medical facilities, or manufacturing floors, they generate far more particulate matter and require more frequent attention.
Makes sense.
And crucially, you absolutely must inspect and likely clean the ducts immediately following any major renovations or remodeling. Construction dust, drywall silica, and sawdust are notoriously fine and will instantly load up and choke a duct system.
So synthesizing everything we've explored today, from the environmental science to the engineering data, synthesizing it all, the ultimate takeaway here is crystal clear.
Yeah.
Cleaner air systems equate directly to healthier workplaces and much stronger, more efficient business performance. It is a dual-layered protection plan. You are protecting your most valuable, fragile asset, your human capital, your employees, while simultaneously protecting your heavy mechanical investment and slashing your monthly energy waste.
It is one of the very few facility maintenance tasks that pays immediate, measurable dividends in both human well-being and hard operational costs.
Absolutely. And if you are sitting there realizing that your office, your warehouse, or your retail space might be silently suffering from sick building syndrome, you need to take action. Call the sponsor now. Commercial Air Duct Cleaning in Atlanta, Georgia. Phone 404-891-0225. Do not wait for the headaches to get worse. Do not wait for your cooling bill to spike into the stratosphere this summer.
It really is about taking deliberate control of your indoor environment, which leaves us with a fascinating, broader thought to ponder. If our commercial buildings are essentially breathing for us while we work, actively filtering the air that fuels our brains and our bodies, what other invisible systems in our daily environments are quietly shaping our physical health, our moods, and our productivity without us even realizing it?
That is a profound question to leave on. Next time you sit at that desk on a Tuesday afternoon, take a deep breath, look up at the drop ceiling, and ask yourself, what exactly are you breathing?